In a dark trailer in DeRidder, Louisiana, in January 1990, Rusty Hamer, 42 years old, sat motionless, gripping a .357 revolver, beside an old box stuffed with crumpled scripts and a half-written note. The stench of whiskey and cigarette smoke hung in the air, as if hiding a secret he never spoke. Just a few decades earlier, young Rusty, with his freckled smile, had America laughing out loud on The Danny Thomas Show. At 13, he earned a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, standing beside comedian Danny Thomas under bright studio lights. So why did a child star, who won millions of hearts, end his life in silence? Did Hollywood cover something up? Or did a whisper from the past, a letter, a betrayal, push him to the edge? Join me as we uncover the heartbreaking tragedy of Rusty Hamer, where fame's glow hid a truth never revealed. Chapter 1. A smile on stage, tears before the mirror. Rusty Hamer was born to make people laugh, with a freckled smile that charmed a nation. But from his earliest steps, it seems life had already written a sad script for him. Let's go back to Tenafly, New Jersey, 1947, a quiet suburb outside New York. In a modest wooden house, Russell Craig Rusty Hamer was born on February 15th, the youngest of three brothers. His father, Arthur, worked long hours, selling men's shirts, while his mother, Dorothy, once dreamed of being a silent film star. A dream that faded away. His red hair and freckles earned him the nickname Rusty, a name that seemed destined for the stage. Every morning, Rusty stood before a mirror, mimicking the smiles of radio stars. But sometimes, the mirror didn't reflect a smile, only a lost look, as if he sensed something waiting for him. In 1953, when Rusty was just 6 years old, a tragedy turned his life upside down. His father passed away, leaving Dorothy to raise three boys alone. Dorothy, her own stage dreams, unfulfilled, poured her hopes into Rusty and his brothers, John and Walter. She took them to auditions, standing outside studios with longing in her eyes. Rusty showed talent early, shining in community plays with a natural ease. Someone in the industry said Dorothy convinced a friend to get Rusty an audition for the Danny Thomas Show. The red-headed boy won over producers with his first line, his smile melting every heart. But fame wasn't all joy. One day, after his first scene, Rusty sat in the dressing room, sobbing into his hands. The 6-year-old had flubbed a line on camera, and the studio went silent. Dorothy, standing outside, spoke gently but firmly. "You have to do better, Rusty. This is our chance." Those words, though loving, were like an invisible rope tying him down. Rusty loved the stage, but long days on set, memorizing lines between scenes, made him feel he had to be perfect. A family acquaintance said Dorothy once told Rusty, "You're a burden." Rusty smiled for the cameras, but inside, he likely just wanted to be a normal kid, playing in the yard instead of under spotlights. In those early years, Rusty seemed to embrace the spotlight, but the pressure to be perfect, from his smile to every line, planted the first seeds of unease. After each scene, he'd bow to the audience like a true performer, beaming brightly. But deep down, maybe he already wanted to step off that stage, for good. Was his mother's dream the start of the burdens he couldn't escape later? Chapter 2. Child Star or Image Prisoner. In the roaring applause at CBS Studios in 1953, a 6-year-old boy bantered with Danny Thomas. But Rusty Hamer's eyes looked distant, as if searching for something beyond the stage. "Why don't they see me as a real actor?" he once asked his mother, his young voice tinged with a quiet ache, like a protest from a small heart. Rusty, with his red hair and freckles, was the child star of the Danny Thomas Show. But deep inside, he yearned to be seen as more than the cute kid. Rusty burst into Hollywood like a phenomenon. The Danny Thomas Show, airing from 1953 to 1964, drew millions weekly with over 300 episodes. As Rusty Williams, Danny Thomas's witty son, He had audiences doubled over with laughter. A producer said, Danny once hugged the boy, saying, "Rusty, you're a genius." At 13, he earned a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a rare honor for a child actor. He tried his hand at the film Dance with Me, Henry, in 1956 with Abbott and Costello, and even released a single, Two of a Kind, in 1959, though it flopped. Fans adored his radiant smile, calling him the heart of the show. But fame had a dark side. Rusty felt trapped in the cute kid image the audience imposed. Each night after filming, he'd bury his face in his pillow, silent, skipping dinner. Dorothy thought he was tired. But maybe Rusty was desperately seeking his true voice. A lighting technician said one day, Rusty stood for hours after a shoot, staring at the stage lights, as if talking to his own shadow. The audience saw his smile, not the loneliness inside.
Celebrated the finale of the Danny Thomas Show, Rusty Hammer quietly stared at the empty studio floor. The boy, once at the center of lights and laughter, now seemed out of place. At 17, Rusty faced a crossroads. But Hollywood seemed to have closed its doors. He once asked, "Why don't they see me as a real actor?" That childhood protest had become a lingering pain in the young man's heart. Rusty tried to find his place in a changing industry. 1960s Hollywood favored modern, rebellious films with no room for the traditional comedy of the Danny Thomas Show. He starred in Make Room for Granddaddy from 1970 to 1971, but the show flopped after one season. Small roles in Green Acres and The Joey Bishop Show were like scattered puzzle pieces, not enough to keep him on screen. Directors saw Rusty and saw only the boy Rusty Williams, not a grown actor. He took acting classes, but doors kept shutting. Was Rusty, in their eyes, gone the moment Rusty Williams left the screen? School offered no comfort. Moving from sets to Palisades High School in Los Angeles, Rusty faced mocking stares. Classmates called him the TV kid, taunting his faded fame. Once, after a school play, Rusty tried to shake a friend's hand in congratulations, but was rebuffed. He quietly went home and took down a photo with Danny Thomas from his wall. It was never hung again. A classmate said Rusty often stood at the end of a hallway, gazing at the schoolyard, as if searching for something. No one knew what, but his eyes seemed lost in a world no one understood. Rusty's pain wasn't just external. He craved recognition, but each rejection made him feel smaller. A friend said Rusty once confided, "They don't need me anymore, but I still want to act." He tried to smile, but it lacked the brilliance of his screen days. Hollywood had changed, the audience had forgotten, and Rusty began to feel like a shadow. The shadow of the boy who made a nation laugh. Invisible wounds, from school taunts to closed studio doors, piled up in his heart. He started to wonder, was he worth anything without the applause? Rusty stood at a divide. One side, his dream of being a true actor, the other, the harsh reality of being forgotten. Were these invisible wounds the start of pushing Rusty into a darkness he couldn't escape? Chapter 4. Loneliness in a Mother's Love. Once watched by millions weekly on The Danny Thomas Show, Rusty Hammer now lived in a damp apartment in DeRidder, Louisiana, where applause had long faded. In 1976, at 29, Rusty left Hollywood to be near his mother, Dorothy, now battling Alzheimer's in a nursing home. His small apartment, with peeling walls, was all that remained of a child star who once stood on the Walk of Fame. Each afternoon, Rusty sat for hours by the window.
Rusty's home now sat quietly on a table, its glass lightly cracked, like time had fractured him too. Rusty scraped by with odd jobs, delivering packages, apprenticing as a carpenter, even working on an Exxon oil rig, but nothing filled the void inside. A relative said Rusty started drinking heavily, not for fun, but to quiet the voices in his head. Liquor became a companion,
helping him forget the days of cheering audiences. But the more he drank, the deeper he sank into depression. His brother John, his closest ally, noticed Rusty's smile was gone. He once told John, "I don't know what I'm living for anymore." Those words were a cry for help, but no one heard. His bond with Dorothy, though loving, carried cracks. She'd once placed her stage dreams on Rusty's shoulders, and now, as she faded in the nursing home, Rusty felt an even heavier duty. He cared for her devotedly, but each time he left, he carried a profound loneliness. An unverified rumor said Rusty kept an unaired Danny Thomas show tape where Danny called him son in a warm, fatherly tone. No one knows if the tape was real, but Rusty seemed to cling to memories of Dad Danny to fight the emptiness. A sense of abandonment consumed Rusty. Hollywood stopped calling, fans forgot, and even Danny Thomas, once an anchor, seemed distant. A friend said Rusty wrote a letter to Thomas expressing regret and a sense of betrayal, but got no reply. If real, that letter cut deep into his heart. Rusty longed to be loved, to be seen, but met only silence. The photo with Danny Thomas, its glass cracked, was a reminder that his bright days were gone. Was the silence from those once close the final drop that overflowed Rusty's heart? Chapter 5: The Final Days of Despair. In a rundown trailer in DeRidder, Louisiana, a dim yellow light shone on moldy walls. A radio played country music mixing with cigarette smoke and stale whiskey. Rusty Hamer sat still, as if time had stopped. In January 1990, at 42, he was no longer the boy who made America laugh on the Danny Thomas show. The .357 revolver wasn't in a drawer. It sat on the table, a cold reminder. No one knew why he didn't put it away, but Rusty's eyes seemed locked on it, as if in conversation with a ghost from the past. Rusty lived in isolation, picking up odd jobs at his brother John's restaurant. Chronic back pain tormented him, but he refused treatment, as if he'd given up hope. A relative said he drank not for joy, but to quiet the voices in his head. Each night, he set an old TV to rerun old sitcoms, sitting there, not laughing, not blinking. The image of young Rusty Williams on screen was a cruel reminder of lost days. John noticed Rusty's empty gaze, but saw no clear signs of suicide. Rusty once told him, "I don't know what I'm living for anymore." A restaurant,
I'm waiting to see if that person's still in me. Those vague, dark words sent chills. A 1966 gun accident, when he was injured by a misfire, may have left a psychological scar. The revolver on the table wasn't just an object. It was memory, fear, perhaps an escape. Rusty lived in overwhelming loneliness, with no friends, no audience. A neighbor said he rarely left the trailer, as if hiding from the world. Rusty's final days were a portrait of despair. He no longer chased fame, just tried to survive each day. But in that trailer, there were no voices, no audience, just a man and a gun not yet fired. Chapter 6: A Gunshot. Hollywood Silence. When John stepped into the trailer in DeRidder, Louisiana, on the evening of January 18th, 1990, the TV was still on, its screen flickering. On a chair, Rusty Hamer sat motionless, the .357 revolver beside him. In the small room, death was quiet. Like a final roll, no one watched. Rusty, once a child star loved by millions, ended his life at 42. Police ruled it suicide, citing severe depression, alcohol abuse, and chronic back pain as causes. The .357 revolver echoed a ghost from 1966, when Rusty was injured in a gun misfire. That accident left him shaken for years, and facing the gun again, he may have seen not a weapon, but a door out of pain.
A relative said Rusty always locked the trailer's windows, even on sweltering nights. Maybe he didn't fear intruders, but memories escaping, carrying the image of the boy, Rusty Williams, he couldn't live with. A note, according to an acquaintance, was found in the trailer. They took everything, then left me with nothing. No one kept it. It may never have existed, or someone hid it, too painful to read again. Some called Rusty's death a child star curse, placing him alongside Gary Coleman and Dana Plato, young talents forgotten by Hollywood. But there was no clear conspiracy, only silence. No major news covered it, no memorials. Hollywood, which once celebrated Rusty, turned away. The death was ruled suicide. But the silence afterward, from Hollywood, the press, those who once called him son, was the coldest part. Rusty left without a sound, as if the world had forgotten the boy who made them laugh. Epilogue: A legacy and unanswered questions. Rusty Hamer's star still sits on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Tourists pass by, snap photos, and move on, unaware.
In an old script, Dorothy, though loving, unwittingly placed her dreams on his shoulders. Danny Thomas, his on-screen father, gave him love, but couldn't save him from darkness. His brother John tried to care for him, but couldn't stop the tragedy. No one was the villain, just people unable to piece Rusty back together. Did the stage lights blind him too long? Or did the laughter of yesteryear drown out a cry no one heard? The letter to Danny Thomas, the note in the trailer, the mutterings in bars, were they real or just our attempt to make sense of loss? If a star can fade without notice, how many others are dimming in silence? Rusty's story isn't just personal tragedy, but a reminder of the value of empathy, especially for young talents. Think of today's child stars, shining on screens. How do we keep them from Rusty's path? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What do you think of the child star curse? And how can we protect them? Maybe Rusty said it all, not in words, but in his absence. And maybe it's us, the audience, who must answer.